Let's be completely real for a second. What has Manchester United actually been missing all these years? Goals? Sure, but that's never been the root of the problem. Tactics? Yeah, but that still doesn't hit the core issue. What this club has truly lost, the thing that used to make opponents feel suffocated just hearing the name Old Trafford, is that undeniable swagger. That absolute arrogance of a true footballing giant. Back in the day, just saying the name, Eric Cantona, screamed leadership. He was the kind of guy who intimidated opponents just by standing on the pitch. Cristiano Ronaldo needs no introduction, from his eyes, his stance, to every single strike. He just oozed absolute pride and unbreakable confidence. And Zlatan Ibrahimović, the pure definition of swagger. A man who stepped onto the field genuinely believing he was better than everyone else breathing. And now, Man United still takes the pitch. Still keeps possession. Still attacks. On paper, the motions are all there. But do they actually strike fear into anyone? No. That's exactly why when Matheus Cunha arrived, nobody expected a Galactico-level blockbuster. Nobody pressured him to drop 25 or 30 goals a season. But after just a few games, you can feel that undeniable vibe, a guy who steps on the grass thinking, I don't back down from anybody. And sometimes, in a squad lacking mentality, just one guy with that dog in him is enough to spark a massive ripple effect. Before touching down at Old Trafford, Cunha was absolutely cooking at Wolves. The numbers don't lie. 15 Premier League goals in a single season and 38 goal contributions over his last 2 years, making up roughly 39% of Wolves' entire offensive output. And remember, this is a squad usually fighting it out between 14th and 16th place. What does that tell you? It means even on a struggling team, Cunha was head and shoulders above the rest, putting up numbers that rivaled guys at top-tier clubs. He did it all, from dancing out of tight spaces to pulling off insane finishes. Everything ran through him. If Wolves scored, his fingerprints were all over it. But that was also the ceiling. Wolves simply didn't have the juice to give him that massive spotlight. No matter how much he balled out, he was stuck in a system with zero depth. Relying that much on one guy makes you predictable, and it puts the entire weight of the franchise on his shoulders. He was the ultimate hard carry. But at Man United, they don't need a one-man army. They need a system activator, a missing piece to elevate everyone else. Cunha proved he can put a team on his back, but his real value now is making the whole machine run smoothly. Look, his start in Manchester hasn't been a walk in the park. He's never been a pure playmaker. At Wolves, his deadly weapons were his instinct, his flair, and those explosive solo moments. Throw him into a rigid system that demands discipline and link-up play. And yeah, there's an adjustment period. Meanwhile, the pressure is boiling over. A massive price tag, plus the expectation to revive a dead offense that was barely scraping 1.2 goals a game? All eyes are on him. And when the stakes are this high, every single touch, every single decision he makes is placed right under a microscope. The real turning point only came when Michael Carrick took charge and changed the tactical structure of Manchester United. The 4-2-3-1 formation was deployed. And most importantly, Bruno Fernandes was returned to a true number 10 role. That led to an extremely important change. His role also changed clearly. From a left-leaning number 10 focused on creativity, Cunha became a player operating closer to the goal, and more dangerous. And when placed in the right spot, everything immediately changed. 4 goals and 2 assists in the last 11 matches are not explosive top-scorer numbers, but they reflect stability and efficiency. What he needs simply is the space to be himself. And when set free, the best version of Cunha begins to appear. But honestly, if we only look at goals to evaluate him, it is not enough. What he brings to Manchester United right now is not just output, but an emotion of arrogance. First is the spirit of fearing no one. Cunha is the type of player you look at and immediately see tenacity. He dares to dribble straight into the defense, dares to hold the ball when surrounded by 2 or 3 defenders, and is not afraid of collisions. There are situations where it seems he should make a safe pass, but he still chooses to confront them directly. It sounds risky, but that controlled risk is exactly what makes opponents cautious. And this is exactly what MU lacked. They used to become terrifyingly gentle, playing football without creating a real sense of threat. Then comes that very Brazilian quality of knowing how to heat up the match. He holds the ball to waste time when needed, provokes opponents at the right moment, pulls the emotion of the match towards himself. And the prime example is the surfing celebration, full of mockery. A bit cocky, a bit provocative, but extremely necessary for a team lacking personality. What is more worth mentioning is the change in work rate. There was a time at Wolverhampton when Cunha was labelled as lazy to run. But what about now? He presses. He drops back to support. He participates in the defensive structure, especially when the team operated with a 5-4-1 block previously. The off-the-ball runs, the tackling situations, all show a completely different version. And finally, the small but extremely important things. The kind of details that only big teams do well. Cunha holds the ball in the final third, draws fouls to earn free kicks that help the team have time to push up. Reducing pressure. Actions that seem very normal but carry the strong essence of peak MU when they knew how to control the tempo of the match in a very Red Devil way. The history of Manchester United with Brazilian players is actually not very smooth. It's not that they lack talent, on the contrary. Most of them are very technical, very samba, but the problem is that this talent rarely translates into long-term stability at Old Trafford. Some explode for a short period and then disappear. Others cannot adapt to the pace and harshness of the Premier League. Why is that? Part of it comes from the environment itself. The Premier League not only demands technique but also requires stamina, intensity, and the ability to endure continuous collisions. As for Old Trafford, it is a massive pressure. So just playing below expectations for a few matches is enough to put you under question. For many Brazilian players, harmonizing their instinct for improvisational football with the requirements of tactical discipline here is not simple at all. But Cunha is a different case. He still has the improvisation, still has inspiring plays, but accompanied by tenacity, not afraid of collisions, and not afraid to clash with the harsh pace of the league. More importantly, Cunha does not try to force himself to fit into some ideal Man United player mold. On the contrary, he is making United adapt to him. And that is the biggest difference. It is not a Brazilian player trying to survive at Old Trafford, but a personality strong enough to gradually change how this team operates and feels the game. If we look back at Matheus Cunha's journey, a very clear transition can be seen. At Wolverhampton, his value was almost entirely measured by goals and assists. Output was almost everything. He had to score, had to create chances, had to do everything for the team to survive. But at Manchester United, the story is different. Here, influence is more important than goals. He doesn't need to score 20 goals per season to be considered successful. Looking more broadly, this role is reminiscent of a player like Roberto Firmino at Liverpool. Someone who isn't always the number one goalscorer, but is the link that makes the entire attacking system run smoothly. After all, perhaps the most important thing to recognize about Cunha is that he is not a perfect signing. He is not the type of superstar who walks in and regularly scores 25 to 30 goals a season. And he is certainly not the type of player who will solve all of Manchester United's problems overnight. Those are not things easily measured by data, but they are clearly present in every moment on the pitch. A play holding the ball in the corner to waste time. A provocative smile after beating an opposing defender. A relentless pressing situation without giving up even in the 90th minute. Those small details, when pieced together, create a very different image of Man United, a team that is no longer easily bullied, no longer playing football with a timid mindset. Arrogance is not something that comes from 4-0 victories or immediate trophies. It starts from very small moments like that. And with Cunha, Man United is gradually finding that back.